This is a big year, one for historical anniversaries. It's been 10 years since the launch of Facebook, 25 years since the fall of the Berlin Wall, and 50 years since the passage of the landmark Civil Rights Act. Coming up, we'll share two compelling and rarely told stories from the civil rights movement that have local ties. But we begin with a story highlighting the prevalence of racism in this day and age. As you've no doubt heard by now, the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers basketball team was allegedly recording making racially offensive comments. The tapes were leaked over the weekend, prompting a protest from his own team and a rebuke from President Obama. WGBH News reporter Adam Riley has more.
Before yesterday's playoff game, the Los Angeles Clippers turned their warm-up shirts inside out, a protest aimed at Clippers owner Donald Sterling, who's on the hot seat for allegedly making racist remarks.
Yeah, it bothers me a lot that you want to broadcast that you're associating with black people. You have to.
In audio obtained by the website TMZ, a man identified as Sterling upbraids his former girlfriend V. Stiviano for posting a picture of herself with Magic Johnson online.
You could sleep with him, you could bring him in, you could do whatever you want. The little I ask you is not to promote it on that and not to bring him to my games.
The backlash has been fierce, with reigning NBA MVP LeBron James setting the tone.
For comments like that, it taints our game, and we can't have that.
And Clippers coach Doc Rivers says that as his team battles in the playoffs, Sterling's comments are the last thing his players need.
It upsets all of us. You know, there's not one guy that's happy with this situation.
That includes new NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, who condemned Sterling's alleged remarks while warning against a rush to judgment.
All members of the NBA family should be afforded due process.
But in the court of public opinion, Sterling has already been found guilty. Adam Riley, WGBH News.
Those black socks are, of course, a symbolic protest by the players. This story raises cultural questions that transcend sports. Here to hash it all out, our sports attorney Joe Rosen, PR maven Colette Phillips, Ian Thompson, a former NBA writer for Sports Illustrated, and Emmett Price, who teaches at Northeastern University. Welcome to all of you. Well, as we all know, tomorrow the NBA is going to make an announcement regarding the situation with Donald Sterling. What should he do? What should the NBA say? Starting with you, Joe.
Well, the NBA, Commissioner Silver came out and talked about due process. So they do have to authenticate the tape. They do have to interview the parties. But in the meantime, a suspension is something that Commissioner Silver can do. I mean, they have the authority to do that. The NBA has not done that yet, but it is something they have the authority to do and should do here.
What else? Should they force him, Colette, to sell the team?
I think that selling the team rewards him because he will make tremendous amount of money. I think that the way in which you impact people is by hitting them in their pocketbooks. That, to me, sanctioning his colleagues in the NBA, other owners, need to basically rebuke him, as Wick Grosbeck did today in today's Globe. And
is there going to be a pushback, though, Ian, on a free speech issue?
I think it's going to be very hard to talk him into selling the team. You cannot shame this guy. He's been known as the most despicable owner in sports for decades, and he could not be forced to sell the team before any of this came out. I mean, he's been terrible. His behavior in all sorts of ways has been awful, and you cannot shame this guy. So, to me, they almost have to treat him like he's a rogue state, like he's Iraq or Cuba, and you punish him with sanctions, and you force him, in a business sense, to have to give up the team because he is not going to take any of this to heart, I promise you.
Okay, but Emma, I mean, already CarMax has pulled out, State Farm Insurance has pulled out. You see some of the players saying they may not play. You've got all these rebukes lining up like this. Won't the market take care of this? Or is the NBA going to have to do it for
I think it's unfortunate that the market will take the lead on this. I think the NBA has to respond, but there are petitions on MoveOn.org, there are petitions on Change.org that are numbering in the thousands right now. And again, he bought the San Diego Clippers for $12.5 million in 1981. They're estimated at $575 million. You're not going to get this guy to sell anything, right? So I think external push from the consumers, from the endorsers have to, do that. But then the NBA has to make a statement. I mean, this is the moment of truth where the NBA has to make a declarative statement that this is not okay. And we need to move forward with some sanctions.
Okay, I want to play a little bit of sound from Bryant Gumbel, who's been around in the sports business for decades, as we know. Right. And basically he's saying this is no surprise, and maybe the NBA is a bit of an enabler on this. Let's listen to Bryant.
Donald Sterling's racial history is on the record. It has cost him money. It cost him his reputation long before this. And so I'm kind of amazed that anyone is surprised at this. And frankly, I'm kind of surprised that the NBA is being let off the hook on this.
You say yes. And I mean, why are they being let off the hook?
I grew up in Los Angeles. Yeah. I remember when, he was a slumlord. Yep. I mean, the guy owned probably the majority of apartments in Beverly Hills and refused to rent to blacks and Hispanics. He owned a ton of property in Koreatown and refused to lease it or rent to anyone other than Koreans.
And he said out loud things like black people smell, Latinos have bad cooking. I mean, he said very specific things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, they're enablers. Well, now they're taking the high road.
I would say every single sports league in America is probably like this, and I would guess you would really want to start with the NFL. But absolutely, they had to know that this was in him. I'd be very surprised if he had not let slip some of these ideas in owners' meetings or with other owners. It had to be a dirty secret, not the first one, and maybe that's part of the problem, that it's just become accepted behavior, and now they're going to have to deal with this new reality, which should have been put into effect a long time ago.
Joe, does the NBA have legal leverage? I mean, I know there's a constitution, some kind of a secret handshake constitution that nobody knows anything about, but do they have legal leverage with ownership?
They do, but we don't exactly know what it is. I mean, there is something in the NBA Constitution which is confidential, talking about owners can effectively get rid of other owners if a certain percentage agrees upon it. But from my understanding, it has to do more with finances. You know, if an owner can't pay his bills or something like that to get rid of him. I think it's going to be very hard to get, even if there was something in the Constitution to allow owners to get rid of other owners, what owner's going to want to do that? Because then it's going to come back against him if he says something out of line. And to talk about the NBA a little bit, the NBA does have a history of fining people for, inflammatory speech. Not even to this level, right? Mark Cuban, Mickey Arison, when he talked about, the lockout. So there is precedent for them to do that. They just need to take it to another level.
They never did anything to Dennis Rodman.
Well, that was sort of, it's Dennis Rodman, right?
I mean, he's not an owner.
Right. And you're right, that's not. He's not an owner.
And
there was a different NBA.
I know. All right.
Very
so,
different.
Colette, I hate to put you in this position, but this is why you're here. You've negotiated a lot of tough marketing strategies for people in trouble, or not people who maybe aren't in trouble. But if you were in this situation right now and you were going to advise Donald Sterling, what would you tell him to do?
Just disappear. Go away. I just don't think that this is fixable for him. He's a serial offender. And how do you fix that? Somebody who he has been charged by the Department of Justice. It's been known. What I would say that he is going to go down in the sports annals as a bigot, along with Marge Schott and Jimmy the Greek and Campanis for forever.
So nobody has any doubts about the authenticity of this. One thing that struck me listening to it at length today was that, and this is not to excuse him at all, but he sounded doddering. He sounded really kind of pathetic, and frankly, maybe even on the edges of senility or dementia. I just want you to go away, and then he'd go, okay. And it was the tone that he was using. Not, this tape hadn't come out. He didn't even know about this. So it wasn't like he was reacting to this. This was the way he was. Has he always been like that? Do you know? I have no idea.
I don't know if he's always been like that, but he's a part of the old school patriarchal system. I mean, he's in the club. I mean, he and Jerry Buss were, you know, two of the folks who really brought, you know, basketball to L.A. in many ways, you know, and they were kind of ringleaders. So I mean, he's part of that old school. He's the longest owner, right, of the NBA, and as a manager, he sucks.
All right, like your friend. So there's some chatter that Magic Johnson, who was actually the one that they picked up on, that he might be interested in actually buying the team. Let's listen to a little bit from Magic Johnson.
I feel bad for Doc Rivers and Chris Paul and all those guys who are African Americans that play for now Donald Sterling. And then you think about all the people who live in his apartment buildings. Some of them are African Americans so we're putting a lot of money, Jim, in his pocket, but at the same time, he doesn't want us in the arena or to come to the Clipper games.
I think part of this was because it was Magic Johnson who just has so much goodwill really across America, the fact that he was picking on him.
Oh, he did not help himself picking on Magic Johnson for sure. This guy, if you ever read any of those Carl Hiaasen novels, he's like the rich, foolish old guy in the Carl Hiaasen novel. And you were asking, was he always like this? Well, I don't know if he was like this 30 or 40 years ago, but 10, 15 years ago, he was doing this stuff. And this you can go on the internet, smokinggun.com and all these other places, sexual harassment suits, where he did remarkable things. That he got away, he didn't get away with them. He had to pay for them, but it did not remove him as the owner of the team.
He talks about he justifies buying for sex. So I'm just wondering if anybody thinks there's a larger issue here where, you know, in the NBA, many of the owners are white, including here in Boston, and the players are predominantly black. Is there a larger issue?
There's an absolute larger issue. I mean, it begs the question of, you know, what is this country becoming, and our lack of conversation around race and equality and inclusivity. I mean, it goes back to the Supreme Court case of last week, and I mean, it's a big picture. So maybe 2014 is the year that we actually delve in and really hash out this conversation.
All right. Thank you all for coming. I'm sure we'll be having this conversation in the weeks to come as well. Thanks again.